Hello, reporter room investigators. Hello, I am here with Crime Story Obsessed, one of my favorite content creators, Emma. How are you today?
Hi, thank you for having me on.
Oh,
I'm good.
sorry, didn't mean to talk over you. I'm so glad that you're with me today. We're really grateful to have you, and I just want to thank all of our subscribers, channel members, mods, and viewers because without you, Reporter Room would be nothing. And I just want to give a little disclaimer for Emma and myself. Everything Emma and I are going to be sharing today is our opinion, and opinions are not facts. So please don't send any negativity to anyone. Let's be kind and good to each other. This video is for educational and entertainment purposes only. So please subscribe, and please subscribe to Crime Stories Obsessed. Also, hit the notification bell because we have, besides the BRYAN Kohlberger case coming up, for those of you that are part of this channel, you know I'm covering all of the financial trials for Alex Murdaugh. And I have a video coming out on that for you guys tomorrow too. So hit the notification bell. That the subscribe button is for Emma, it's for me, and the notification bell, that's for you guys to make sure that you know when we have something coming out. And give this video a thumbs up. It really helps us out with the YouTube algorithm. So let me go ahead and just start by doing this. I'd like to thank our executive producers, our producers, and our channel members. You guys keep this going. And I would also like to thank everyone who's been so kind about sharing super thanks and super stickers. Thank you so much. All right, I'm seeing the comment section coming up, so I'm assuming everybody can see us. We have Mary Jo and Jakey and Stacy. Holly is here. Amelia's here. Candace is here. Steve's here. Laura's here. So come on in, everybody. Come on in. We have so much interesting things to dig into. So Emma and I are going to be talking all things BRYAN Kohlberger, and Emma has brought us some breaking news as well. So we're going to be talking about that. So Emma, what do you think about the? We had one or two news outlets reporting that BRYAN does not have an alibi.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's a bit odd, isn't he? I mean, from what I've seen personally, and not everybody agrees, but this is just my personal opinion, he doesn't seem to have a lot of friends, a lot of people that he kind of that he's close to or associates with, apart from the people that were maybe in his class. So it's not kind of surprising that he probably doesn't have an alibi, but I thought I had read somewhere that he did have an alibi, that one of the news outlets was reporting that he did have one. So I'm not sure. I can't hear you, Jess. I can't hear any sound on your end.
Let me turn my mic on. So I was like looking on, yeah, it helps if I turn my mic on. I'm so used to turning it off and on. Okay, so when I was looking on the news, I saw something on Fox News and it said that they had a thing that he had an alibi, but then when I dug deeper into the news story, I couldn't find anything that said that. So I was like, I didn't know what to make of that, if it was just like a mistype or if something was coming out and they pulled it back. That can happen too, where they pull it back right at the end. So I don't know. Bonnie,
Yeah, it was like one channel, I think, that was saying that he did, but then I haven't seen any others that have said the same thing. So, and it was like one sentence.
And maybe he went live with the article and then read it, and that's why nobody else talked about it. So I just thought that was so interesting. And I think it would be kind of hard to have an alibi at 4 a.m. in the morning. And I just want to say at the outset that BRYAN is innocent until proven guilty. everyone gets their day in court, but we are going to be talking about him. He is the one that's sitting in jail. So he's the one that's been indicted on 4 counts of first-degree murder. And he's also been indicted on, I believe it's a breaking and entering charge. So on May the 25th, the court is planning to address this gag order that's been brought up by both Kaylee Gonzalez's parents and their attorney. And also, the other challenge to this gag order has been the mainstream media. What do you think about this gag order? Should we have it in place or not?
I don't think they should. I don't think the family, especially Kaylee's family, feel that it should be there either. And I think if I were them, I would probably feel the same. Like, this information should be out there. The people have a right to know what's going on. And yeah, I feel that they should have a right to be able to speak freely about what they know, so long as it's not going to affect the case.
I think so too. I think I could understand having a gag order for, like, maybe for the judges, for the prosecuting attorneys and the defense attorneys, and maybe some of the witnesses. But I agree with you. Family members like the Gonzalez parents, I don't see why they can't speak out unless they know something that the prosecution is afraid or the defense is afraid that's going to get out.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose if it's something they're going to use as evidence against him and it's a big thing, then maybe, that it wouldn't be worthwhile them putting it out there, because they need that for the shock value for the jury. But I don't know, to be honest.
And we are going to be talking about Bethany and Dylan in just a few moments. So please stay with us. If you would be so kind as to give this video a thumbs up, it will help us out with the YouTube algorithm. So it sounds like you think that it's okay to lift the gag order. What do you think about having cameras in the courtroom?
I mean, they didn't with the Wests, did they? And I don't know how it works as to, is it the judge that gets to decide whether they have?
Judge Call will decide, I'm assuming.
But I think they should be able to talk about stuff. And I think, I don't know. I mean, it's a difficult one, really, isn't it? I don't know about the cameras in the courtroom. Do you think they should have them in the courtroom?
I do.
You do? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, people have a right to know what's going on. These people were taken from their communities. They want to know what happened, don't they?
Yeah, they do. And I think that having the cameras in the courtroom, at least for the Alex Murdaugh case, it really helped us to understand. That case was so complicated. I don't really know how you would, get your whole head around it without having those cameras in there, because how the press tends to report stuff is in, little bites. It's, with the exception of a few outlets, like maybe the New York Times or the Washington Post or something, some of the big ones, but the smaller ones tend to give you like little bites. So a big case like that where you have so many moving parts, it really did help to have the cameras, and it also helps you assess the credibility of the witnesses, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, and the and the person that's being the suspect, because sometimes when certain questions are asked, you can just see the facial expressions. I mean, look at what's she called, the Gannon's stepmom. Some of the things that she's been doing in the courtroom and the faces she's been pulling and the fingers she's been putting up have just been,
oh my gosh,
crazy. Oh my God.
That's the exact right word, Emma. Crazy. Now, yeah, just to jump off onto Leticia Stauch for a second, do you think she is insane? Or do you think it's just an act? Or
I get from her that she's a very manipulative, somebody that always gets what she wants. I think she's got anger problems, and I think she manipulates people to get where she wants to be. I don't know whether she's crazy. I don't know. It's a big word, isn't it?
It
It's a big
is.
word. I mean, the way she's been acting is certainly crazy, but I think a lot of it is act. I think she's putting on kind of a bit of a play for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So who do you think Brian's target was?
Maddie.
You do?
Yeah. I think I don't know who I was watching. It might have been your channel. And somebody was saying that because Brian had this thing about his weight, the fact that he always wanted to be so slim and he'd lost all that weight and then he had the tummy tuck and everything, that he was obviously into weight. So the chances are that when he was looking at the girls, if there was one particular one that he was interested in, it would probably be the one that was a good physique, nice and slim, look like they worked out, you know,
So you think he would have, rather than gone for like the more womanly,
curvy.
voluptuous kind of Kim Kardashian type of body, you think he would have gone for like the what he perceived to be like the slimmest one?
Hmm.
Oh,
I
okay.
think so. I don't know. Who do you think his target
I,
was?
I I think it was Maddie also. I didn't really have a why on that because I think all the girls that were in the house were just are the two that are still with us, Bethany or Dylan. They're just all gorgeous girls,
Oh
and
God,
I
yeah.
think that Kaylee and Xana and Maddie were just all equally gorgeous. So I didn't. But the fact that I do think he entered on the second floor back patio, then we also know now from if this Daily Mirror article is correct, and I gave that to the audience with a caveat of whether it would be correct or not,
Mm,
that if it's true that Bethany saw him going out the back door, because I do think it was Brian. I've heard a lot of people saying they didn't think it could be Brian, and that Bethany and Dylan, that their accounts of how they saw the perpetrator were different. But I disagree. I think Dylan could have seen him at one point coming down the stairs with his mask and bushy eyebrows, and that Bethany could have seen him as he was stripping things off and heading out the back patio. But the fact
yeah.
that he went up to that third floor, and that's where the knife sheath was found. So
But in
um,
the very beginning, if you remember, Kaylee's father said he had no need to go to the third. Was it third floor, second floor, third floor? He had no need to go up there where Kaylee and Maddie was. So that kind of gave us the impression that Zana and Ethan, or one of them, were the target. But then we hear Kaylee's injuries were the most severe. So then that kind of made me think, well, why? You know, did she put up an extra fight, maybe knee him somewhere, do something that got him enraged? Because if the target was Maddie, then why would Kaylee have the worst injuries, you know?
right, right. No, I agree. It's just like so sad. So we have reports about the second roommate, Bethany, seeing a man without his clothes on. Now, my caveat with that is that it came from the Daily Mirror. So that's not exactly like always 100% true. So we don't
Mm,
know that that's what she saw, but supposedly he was exiting the 1122 King Road house
yeah.
out the back sliding door. So do you think it's possible that
Mm.
with Brian being a criminology major, that he would have been smart enough to take his clothes off? Or maybe was in the process of changing his clothes? Do you think he, like, knew that Bethany was in the house?
I I think he went up there for Maddie, and I think he knew from watching the house which one her room was, and he wasn't expecting Kaylee to be there. Zana and Ethan had come in last, so I think they ended up getting it just because they happened to probably still be awake and wandering around, and maybe they heard something, or were on the landing. But yeah. What was the question again? I think I've gone past your question.
Do you think that, that Brian would have been, do you think Bethany might have caught sight of him? Maybe she heard some
Mm,
commotion going on and came up the stairs. Now, a lot of people are like, "Well, why didn't she call 911?" But I was, my thought process on that was, well, there were, 4, 5 girls. I think the
Mm.
6th one had already moved out. She had graduated and moved out. So there were 5 single girls. I don't know if it would have been like that shocking to see someone with a
Yeah.
boyfriend over, maybe if you just caught a glimpse, and it wouldn't have been till you came upon everything the next day that you would have thought, oh, that's what I saw. But, in the night when you're tired, maybe she took an Ambien and went
Yeah.
to bed, or maybe she had a couple drinks and went to bed. It may have just been she saw a naked man leaving and just thought, wow, wonder why he didn't put his clothes on.
I'm still wondering if the reason why they want Bethany to testify is possibly because the 2 girls that were out together, the 2 surviving roommates, Dylan and Bethany, maybe had been drinking. Possibly they're teenagers, kids. Had they been taking substances? If they had, I don't know, I wasn't there. But if they had, and the following day the detectives asked them very thorough questions, it's a murder investigation, and they admitted to taking certain things, would that then make what Dylan saw not a bit shaky? I'm not very good with words, but her evidence shaky because of the fact that they were possibly intoxicated. Maybe that's what they wanted in her for. I don't think Bethany saw anything. Although maybe there was a text message between the 2 in the rooms.
Oh, yeah. Could be.
Like a message between the 2 where Bethany said what was going on and Dylan's kind of said, oh, nothing. Or, and they're trying to use that kind of evidence, maybe.
Yeah, because the defense is going to do Ann Taylor's job is to poke as many holes in the case as she possibly can to try to create that reasonable doubt for the jury.
Yeah.
Now, reasonable doubt doesn't mean beyond any doubt. So, I just really hope that the jury isn't expecting doesn't have the CSI effect that we saw happen in some of the other trials. So I've seen a lot of comments in my comment section. I'm sure you have too, about a possible accomplice. What do you think? Do you think Bryan could have had an accomplice? We know that he, I guess, supposedly when he was arrested, asked if anybody else had been arrested, or do you think he was a lone wolf incel actor?
Yeah, second one. I think he probably said hi to people, but I don't think he had many friends. I don't think he was close enough to anybody to be able to ask anyone something so, like deep and dark. I don't think he has anybody that close to him that he would ask.
Yeah, that's a great point, Emma, because, and if you're just joining me, I'm here with Crime Stories Obsessed, Emma, and you're with Reporter Room, and we're talking about the Bryan Kohlberger case. We're talking about the victims. We're talking about Bryan, who's innocent until proven guilty. Please subscribe to Reporter Room. Please subscribe to Crime Stories Obsessed, and give this video a thumbs up. Just in case, if you see it, you're lucky, because YouTube did flag this video. I don't know why. I just put in for an appeal for it. But I got so it's got a yellow flag. So I had to have it manually reviewed. I know. So it's not getting pushed out like it normally would. So you think he did act alone because he doesn't seem like he had a lot of friends. And I think, just in light of the fact that he was, getting fired from a teaching assistant job, he had just gotten fired from that. And how hard is it to get fired from a teacher's assistant job?
Yeah, unless you're being rude to people,
right,
or you're saying something that you shouldn't be saying, like, how difficult would it be?
I agree.
I just think he's a bit of a loner, bit of an incel. I don't think he was really that close to anybody. I certainly don't think he was close enough to anyone to be able to ask them to be an accomplice in something. You'd have to be very, very close, like a brother or the bestest friend, to be able to say something like that, knowing that they're not going to go to the cops. And I just don't think he had anyone that close.
I really like the way that you've thought about that, Emma. That's really, really helpful. Thank you. And we know that there was a K-bar knife sheath. And Nurse Allison did a really great demo on one of my live streams where she showed how that would have been attached to the belt and that the belt would have had to have come unbuckled for that knife sheath unless it somehow tore off in the struggle, but it would be really hard to tear that off. And this was found next to Maddie. So do you think this was left by accident, or do you think this was left as a calling card and he outsmarted himself by getting a little bit of touch DNA? And for those of you that aren't familiar with this case, touch DNA is not blood DNA. It just means some skin cells from his finger. Touch DNA were found on the inside snap. So what do you think? Do you think that was a calling card, or do you think it came off?
Well, I mean, for, you know what I do for a living, I'm a paramedic, and I wear like a belt with a lot of things hanging off it.
Okay.
Not a K-bar knife sheath, but lots of things. And I mean, I will that are, you know, that just come off. So I suppose, yeah, maybe you would have to open your belt to be able to get them off, which is weird because we heard that there wasn't any, you know, he didn't do anything to them like that in a sexual way. So
not
but
well,
as for touch DNA,
right.
I mean, they should be on that. I think there should be some touch DNA because he's got to have put that on his belt himself. He's got to have purchased it from the shop, brought it back, put it on his belt himself, you know.
And just to be clear,
unless he bought it on the way there and he had gloves on, you know.
They did find touch DNA on the inside snap of that knife sheath that he left behind. And that's why I thought maybe he was like trying to frame somebody else, or was he like leaving it behind as a calling card? Like he thought, I'll be the K-bar killer, you know, because we know he, and you know, he's innocent until proven guilty, but we know he was infatuated, you know, with criminology. That's what he got his master's degree in. We know he was going to go for a PhD in it. So he was obviously very interested in it. That doesn't mean everybody that's interested in true crime is going to do something like this, but you know,
no.
Some people are.
I bet he's not happy with his father because he's not got any convictions. So I don't think they were able to find him on the system, but his father did come up as familiar DNA, which is, you know, I bet he could have, when he found out that his father was the one that led him to.
Yeah. Yeah, and so for those of you that aren't familiar with this case, Emma's totally right. They found how they caught Bryan's DNA. They had that DNA. They knew it was a Hyundai Elantra. They had a couple of things, and they were able to match the touch DNA, which was on the inside snap of the knife sheath, with Bryan's dad. So, and then I know a lot of people have said, oh, they haven't made their case. They haven't made their case. But we haven't seen all the evidence yet. So do you think that, Bryan's cell phone, we know it was pinging at the 1122 King Road house. We know at around 9 a.m. after this all went down that his phone was pinging outside the house again. Do you think he went back around 9 a.m. to the 1122 King Road house to get the knife sheath? Or did he just want to see the mayhem? And of course, nobody was awake yet, but was he looking to see the mayhem that he created?
Well, I mean, I did, when I first heard of this case and I'd heard that they felt he'd gone back the following day, I thought, no way, nobody's gonna do that. But then I was covering another crime the other day, and the guy had left his wallet, and he went back the following day to pick up his wallet. So I think it could be a possibility if he's realized that knife sheath's gone off his belt. When he's gone to get rid of the knife, he will have probably thought, like most of us would, I'll get rid of both of them together, the sheath and the knife. Looked down, thought, oh my God, what have I done with the knife sheath? And then wrestled with his head, do I go back over there? So I think there's a big chance that he possibly did. I mean, these students, he knew that they'd been out until late. The chances were that the surviving ones weren't going to be up early. I suppose there's a possibility that he did go back in, and maybe I'd love to know what he would have said if they'd have caught him in the morning, like, oh, hi, I'm the friend just popping in to say hi. Like, how would he have got over that if somebody had have turned up and asked him who he was? But I think he did. I think he did.
So you think he left it behind by accident, it sounds like.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, do you think that the Brian's defense team is going to have a way to overcome that touch DNA found on the knife sheath? So it's just some skin
Well, they're going to have to
cells.
say it was planted. I would have thought. Will they not have to say it was planted? I mean, I know I've had a lot of comments under my videos saying, "Oh, it was planted," and I think, well, who's going to want to plant that? You know, surely they could have planted something else. If they were going to plant evidence in there, in that house, surely they would have taken some of his hairs. They would have taken maybe something out of his bag, a pen that he uses, if it was somebody from college. Like, you wouldn't have just taken the knife. You'd have left more evidence there at the scene if this was a planted evidence situation.
So it probably came off in the struggle. Could have got his belt could have come off, or it could have ripped loose, or maybe he was, stripping off his clothes upstairs. I mean, I don't know. We don't know yet. There's so much we don't know yet. That's why I really do hope that this trial is televised. Now, Judge Gall does have a history of allowing television cameras in the courtroom, but I have not heard anything one way or the other. If they're, I mean, I guess her biggest priority is going to be, making sure that he has a fair trial, and we all want that because we don't want to put the family through a second one. So, do you think the fact that Brian's cell phone was pinging in and around the 1122 King Road house, combined with the touch DNA, combined with the Hyundai Elantra, and we don't know if they caught him on camera in driving the Hyundai Elantra or not. Do you think this will be enough to help sway a jury and just, throw out the roommates' eyewitness accounts? If the jury just decides we're not going to, if the defense somehow manages to get those two to cancel out, do you think the rest of the circumstantial evidence would be enough to put him behind bars? Of what we know of, there's probably more.
Yeah. I think they've only touched on what, the stuff we know is probably minimal compared to what we'll find out at the trial. And I think they probably do have enough, given like what we said a second ago. Look, there probably is other stuff that we don't know about yet, and the stuff that we do know about. I think there's enough. I think they will poke holes in it, but I think there's enough to try and show that he was stalking them. And I think that's where they're going to go, the line that they're going to go down, that he was stalking them prior to.
Right. That's a great point, because we do know that he was approaching them in DMs on Instagram, right?
Yeah, so they say. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Great point. So let's do a poll in with you guys. If you would be so kind as to put a 1 in the chat if you think that Brian was visiting the house and peering through the windows, maybe parked up in the apartment complex. I showed you guys in prior videos how that apartment, that's the 2 apartment buildings that sit next door to the 1122 King Road house. When you're facing the house from the street looking onward, the apartments would be on this side, and then the parking lot sat directly behind. So it would have been like a goldfish bowl to look in to the 2nd and 3rd floor windows from that, because of the incline of the hill for that parking lot. So do you guys think, put a 1 if you think Brian had been visiting the house and peering through the windows before, and put a 2 in the chat if you think this was the first time, November 13th was the first time that Brian entered the house. What do you guys think? A 1 in the chat if you think he had been there before, and a 2 in the chat if you think that this was his first time. And Emma,
I think a 1.
You think a 1? I was just going to ask you, what do you think, Emma? I also think a 1.
Can I just say hello to my channel manager, Candice Young? Hi, Candice. Thank you for being here. She's always supporting me. She's lovely.
So I'm seeing a lot of 1s. I haven't seen a single 2 come up. I'm still getting 1s. All right, so it's pretty much a blowout. Everybody thinks he was at the house before. So I guess that leads to, do you think he knew any of the people living in that house? Do you think he, met them at the Mad Greek restaurant? Do you think he could have encountered them, you know, did he like get fixated on somebody through social media, or was he coming to the campus and got fixated on you believe that Maddie was the target, got fixated on her through seeing her at the Mad Greek or on social media? What do you think, Emma?
I've heard people say that they feel that he came over and actually came to that university on purpose because he'd already seen Maddie or whoever it was he was stalking prior to him actually leaving his hometown. And I've thought about it. I mean, how far will a stalker go? I mean, if that is what he is and that's what he was doing, there is a chance that he could have been watching these girls for a long time. I mean, they've got 12 times that he apparently went to that residence before that they have documented. What about the other times that he didn't take his phone?
Or he had it switched off or on airplane mode. Yeah. And then we also know that from some of the other students, they report seeing BRYAN inside in one of the public areas at the University of Idaho, inside the student center where I guess everybody could come in. So, did he know one of the girls took a break there and go to see them? I think it's kind of surprising that just the fact that, Kaylee's had that brand new Range Rover. She was all excited. She had come up to show it to her best friend, Maddie. For those of you that don't know, Kaylee and Maddie were childhood friends. And then we also had Ethan's bright red Jeep all parked out in front. And none of these things seemed to deter BRYAN. What did you think about that, Emma? Like, why wasn't
there was
he
a lot of
deterred by
cars.
that?
Yeah, it's like he wasn't put off by the fact. He must have known that surely there was more than just Maddie in that house. He will have known. He will have been there before. So it makes you wonder. He didn't seem bothered by the fact that he would have had to have overpowered more than probably 2 people to get to his target, at least.
Right.
And he didn't seem bothered by that. If it was him that did it. I mean, I was, but. Yeah. What do you think?
I think he had it in his mind that he was going to do that. I think the anger was building. I think the anger was building. We know he was getting, he had gotten fired from his teacher assistant job. If this whole profile that we've heard from multiple law enforcement agencies, former law enforcement agencies, about him being involuntarily celibate. Now, most people who aren't voluntarily celibate do anything like this, but in this case, the fact that he did fit this kind of profile, that he just maybe had it in his mind that he was going to do that night, and there was not anything that was going to deter him, including that DoorDash at 4. I mean, you would think that the DoorDash. Now, there's been some new information on that. What do you have for us on that, Emma?
Oh, yeah, I'll read it to you. Let me get it. So before we went live tonight, I thought I would just have a route through Facebook, just see what's going on in those groups, see if there's anything we've not seen yet. And I saw this.
Be
makes
clear,
a comment.
We are reading from a Facebook. We are not saying that she, neither Emma or I, are saying that she has done any of these things, because we aren't able to independently verify this information. This could be just some, nut job in the Facebook group posting this. But her name has been coming up in relation to possibly having been the DoorDash delivery person. And again, we don't have any kind of verification on that. It's just all rumors. So I just want to put that out there on behalf of Emma and myself. This is pure speculation from Facebook. So that's very interesting.
That's interesting. Yeah.
If that turns out to be true.
And there's people commenting saying she's got bushy eyebrows and that she went to the house to drop the food off. And, she doesn't, to me, look muscular and built like a man. She looks like a very small female.
Yeah. And I think, and if I've seen pictures
But
of her, I think I would describe her as having, because I saw the body cam footage of her arrest, because it was like I just hadn't posted anything on it because I was just trying to see if, trying to confirm if she was the DoorDash, and there hasn't, of course, with the gag order, we're not going to get a confirmation. I'm not saying it is a nut job in the Facebook group. It could be a really nice person in the Facebook group. We just don't know. So we just, we don't want to like put somebody's reputation at stake. Imagine like logging on and hearing this about yourself, how we don't want to put anybody's reputation at stake for something that's, we don't know. Emma and I don't know who's posting this, because it's all people behind avatars in these Facebook groups.
Yeah.
So sometimes the people in your Facebook group, and sometimes you don't. So it's very interesting.
People making.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, people speculate, don't they, in these groups, and a lot of the information isn't always correct. And sometimes they might get a little bit of information, but then make up the rest of it. So you don't always know.
Right. I can tell you that for sure she was arrested for driving under the influence. But beyond that, that's all I've been able to confirm. I haven't confirmed any of the other stuff. So they could have seen just arrested and then added on in their own mind. You know how the grapevine goes, the game of telephone, one person tells another person. So I just don't want to damage her reputation. And thank you so much, Debbie. Yes, please give this video a thumbs up. It helps me with the algorithm. And also we got deboosted right out of the gate. Hopefully I put in for a manual review right away. So hopefully that'll get lifted. Okay, so I'm here with Emma from Crime Stories Obsessed, and we are talking all things Bryan Kohlberger. Please subscribe to both Reporter Room and Crime Stories Obsessed. She has a great channel, and if you want to join the top chat, please do. You just need to be subscribed for 1 minute and give this video a thumbs up on your way into the top chat. So Ethan's family said that they do not want to attend this trial. They would prefer to be together. And to be clear, Bryan is innocent until proven guilty. With that said, do you think that they will at least make a victim impact statement when all this is said and done, Emma?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. I think they'll talk about how it's affected the families, hoping that he will take on board some of this information, but they very rarely do, because the type of people that commit these crimes obviously have no what's the word, when they don't look back at things and think, oh, maybe shouldn't have done that. Conscience. They don't seem to have much conscience, do they?
No, not if he's a sociopath or a psychopath.
No.
Nope, no conscience at all.
No. But I think they will. I think they will. And I think we'll all hear it and we'll all feel it, even if he doesn't. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's more for like, and we don't know if, what the penalty that the prosecution is seeking either. There's been a lot of conjecture and, a lot of things, but he hasn't been charged with the death penalty, and they may undercharge him rather than overcharge him. So there's been a lot of questions about Bethany and Dylan, and I think you and I are on the same page as far as them. I feel like they're victims who survived something that was just absolutely horrific. But a lot of people are wondering, like, how did they escape being unharmed? I have a theory on it. What's your theory on it, Emma?
I think he went in there with the motive of killing Maddie. I think that was who he went in there for. I think he wasn't I don't think he went in there with the motive of, right, I'm going to go in there and just kill everybody in this house. I think he went in there to kill Maddie, possibly because she wouldn't give him what he wanted, or she was ignoring him or whatever. He got Kaylee, which was an extra because, like we were saying before, she wasn't supposed to be there anymore. The two were awake because they'd just eaten, and he ended up having to kill them as well. I think he probably then got out of there as quick as he could. I don't think he went in there with the intent in just going and trying to kill everyone. I think he had a target.
I think probably if Ethan and Xana had not gotten the food at 4 a.m., they might have survived it. Or if or maybe they heard something upstairs if they hadn't been, disturbed. Maybe he was Do you think he was in the house already when the girls got home? And I think one of the things that like is so frustrating for this whole case is that, these girls did everything right. Bethany and Dylan, they were out together. Xana and Ethan, they were out together. Kaylee and Maddie, they were out together. Everybody was in pairs.
Came back
They were,
together.
they came back
Yeah.
together. They should have been safe. They were locked in their own home.
Yeah. I think the problem with the doors was that they had so many people coming in and out. I think anybody could have probably gained access that knew that had been there before for parties. Because if you think about it, you go out for a cigarette or you go out, stand outside and get a bit of fresh air, you're going to need the door code. If it's not open, people would have probably been able to access that home, I think.
They should have been safe. So my theory about Bethany and Dylan, first of all, I do think their stories line up because I feel like it's very possible that she could have seen Bryan on his way. We just know that he went by her. And I think she was saved by the fact that he does have some visual snow. So although she opened the door and saw him, because of his visual impairment, he may not have seen her in his periphery. And so, and then with Bethany, she could have just heard some noises. She could have just even heard Dylan moving around and just, stuck her head up because we know this was a party house, and maybe he was stripping down or had just stripped down to because he wouldn't, as a criminology, with somebody with a master's degree in criminology, he would know not to transfer the DNA from his clothing into the car. So to me, it makes sense that at some point he would have stripped down before he got into his vehicle. And maybe he was doing that right at the patio door, and she just happened to poke her head around. And, for those people who say, oh, they should have called 911. Think about it. You're living as roommates in a house with 5 young women. Even though it would have maybe been a surprise to see a man's, with his clothes being put on or, in some sort of state of undress, maybe getting dressed or getting undressed, it would have been surprising. It might not have been like a call 911 kind of emergency. There were 5 young women all in the house together. What do you think, Emma? So that's my theory.
Yeah, I think if I lived in I'm thinking back to the days that I had a few girls living with me in the house, and I think if I'd have seen a man walking past getting dressed, I don't think I would have been thinking, let's ring 911. I would have been thinking, oh, she's had a man round. Who's this? New boyfriend? Ooh, I'll ask her about that in the morning. Unless, obviously, there would have been something else going with it, like the screaming or crying or something like that. Then maybe you had it all together and you would have at least gone up to make sure they were okay. Like knocked on the door and said, are you all right? After you'd seen him go.
I'm sure that's, one of the biggest, to me, it would be one of the hardest things of surviving something like this would be just like the survivor guilt that you have, that you survived, whether it would have been a fire and you got out, or if it, was something like this and you survived. So do you think Bryan will be exonerated by the defense? Do you think that Ann Taylor, she's a, pretty good lawyer. From what I've heard, she's the only death penalty certified attorney in that region of northern Idaho. Do you think it's possible that she's able to poke enough holes in this case to get him off? And again, he's innocent. Sorry.
I think she's capable of poking enough holes, but I still think the evidence that they've got would be enough to make a jury feel that he's guilty. I think there's just too much coincidental evidence that put him there. I did think about something a while back, and I thought, I wonder if, because he knew that the college and the fact that he got fired because of the unprofessionalism towards females, he knew that was all going to come back and bite him. And there was part of me that felt that maybe he'd acquired a female attorney in order to be able to quash the rumors that he has any sexism towards females, but then I suppose if she's the only attorney in that area that would be able to take that case on, then that would maybe not be the case. What do you think?
I think having a female attorney probably does help him. I agree. I think that if he had hired a male, like if he had been, had the kind of money that Scott Peterson's parents had, and you know, and they had, he had that kind of money, and he had hired a Mark Garagos, I have no doubt that a female would have been added to that defense team, or at least at that defense table. We saw a lot of strategy like that in the Casey Anthony case too. Where they just, she suddenly was dressed up like a librarian and the party girl kind of thing. We saw it in the Jodi Arias case. Now, Casey was found not guilty. Jodi Arias was found guilty. And, she was another one, with the glasses. So I know there's a lot of that strategy that they think about when they're getting the lawyers together, and probably who's sitting next to the defense. I'm sure if it hadn't been Ann Taylor that took the case, I'm sure the defense would have put a woman on there.
Yeah.
But
just because of everything coming back to bite him on the bum in regards to sexism and the things that have gone on in his past, the people that have possibly come forward that maybe we don't even know about, witnesses that we're not even aware that they're going to have yet, people that have come forward and said they maybe went on a date with him from these dating sites. We heard of one that came on TikTok, but is there others? And so I think you're right. I think there would have been at least one female, because I think he knew that was going to come back and bite him. And if he's been covering all angles, like we feel he has, what with the evidence, touch DNA, clothing, hairs, fibers, all the rest of it, then he's going to be looking at every way possible to try and cover his arse, I would have thought.
Yeah, I think you're right. So what motive do you think that he had if he's found guilty? And again, he's innocent until proven guilty. If you're just joining me, you are with Reporter Room. My special guest is Emma from Crime Stories Obsessed. She's an awesome content creator. You'll want to subscribe to her channel. Please subscribe to Reporter Room as well. Give this video a thumbs up and help us out with the YouTube algorithm. So if you think, if Brian is found guilty and he's innocent until proven guilty, what do you, sounds like you think he's also an incel. I think we're on the same page just from hearing you talk. Am I right?
Yeah, definitely.
So do you think the reports about him grading the female students lower than the males, do you think that will be allowed into the trial? Or do you think the judge is going to think that that's too prejudicial? Because I would think that would be another piece of the circumstantial puzzle.
Well, I mentioned that in one of my videos, and I did have a lot of comments from people saying it wasn't just the females he was downgrading, it was the males as well, but that the media had jumped on the fact that he was lower grading the females and kind of made more of it. So maybe we'll find out more about that later on, whether it was females and males or whether it was anybody. Maybe it was just anybody who was better than him, or anything that he read that he thought was really good and he's downgraded it. But I mean, from what we've heard, it does sound like it was a female issue. I think that stems back to his childhood. I've been reading up on lots of childhood traumas and things to do with children and how it affects him in later life. And I do believe that there was something going on there at home with him.
So you think there was some kind of an issue?
And the issues that he had to do with women.
Wow.
Yeah. And he said, didn't he, mentioned a while ago about his dad. And he said that he never treated his dad nicely. And I think that is because maybe his mother was very dominant, and he saw maybe the mother being the father being put down or spoken to in a certain way, and he's kind of looked at his dad as weak and thought, I'm not going to grow up to be like that.
So he had the opposite reaction. Or maybe he could have been the opposite too. We've heard so much about Brian's weird stare. We've heard people talking about, other students that saw him at the University of Idaho in a common area where students were allowed to go without an ID badge. And we've heard, people that met him, encountered him at a restaurant, or, that have come forward to talk about it. He has this odd stare, and we've seen it in all the photographs. Do you think this is that he just really is socially awkward, or could this be a combination of also having the peripheral snow vision impairment that he talked about allegedly on social media.
I don't know if you'd see that from looking. Yeah, I don't know if I don't know much about visual snow, but I don't think it's something that you can see from looking at somebody. Like, you wouldn't be able to see them looking at it differently. I just don't see anything behind his eyes. When he looks, you can tell a lot from looking into somebody's eyes. You can see warmth, or you can see fondness or care, love. You can see a lot. But there's nothing behind his eyes. It's like a dead stare, you know? And I think him looking there, the photo that you've got on the screen at the minute, where he's looking, it seems like he's genuinely giving her a smile because she said something funny maybe, or nice, but it's like there's nothing behind his eyes. You can't read anything from him.
Just that kind of a snake eyes where you just have, like reptilian. If you've ever seen like a reptile, there's no like emotion behind that, because that part of, they call it the alligator brain in humans too, but that part of the brain, in sociopaths or psychopaths, and I'm not diagnosing him. I'm just thinking he has some, if he did this, he has some traits, but it could also have been the peripheral snow too. And some disorders affect peripheral vision, and Green Eye Bandit is saying, how do you drive at night with visual snow? Eyes are the soul's windows to the soul. I don't know. And Amelia's saying flat affect. Flat affect. Yeah, there's no affect there. And Bullis Rustum is saying we call it face.
Yeah. So there's just nothing behind his eyes. And maybe that's why he's never made friendships, because when you go over to somebody and you're talking to them for the first time and you look into their eyes and you say hello, like you get something back from somebody through their eyes. And a lot of cultures, you'll see they're covered up and they have the letterbox, the clothing that covers most of their face. And a lot of the way that they speak to people is through their eyes. But there's just nothing with him at all.
You can get a driver's license with visual snow. I did a whole bunch of research on it. You can get a driver's license with visual snow. It just depends on how bad it is. So it can impair your vision, but it doesn't, obviously he wasn't legally blind or anything like that, but it can just cause some blurriness out of the periphery. So in a darkened house coming down the stairs, where Dylan maybe just peeked out, he might not have caught her. It also can affect different parts of your periphery, because your peripheral vision, you're straight on here, right? And you have peripheral here, and you also have peripheral here. So he could see perfectly here, and he may, even with one eye, see completely. And then the other one just have some peripheral snow in this one little portion. So that's why I think maybe Dylan did survive, if he did see her at all. Maybe, or maybe
if he did do this, it certainly didn't affect him being able to see the end result and what he did. He was able to go in there.
Do you think he had some night vision goggles? He certainly.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you look at the list of things that they took out of the house, there was a lot of odd kind of objects, things that you just wouldn't have. And a lot of black clothing,
Mm-hmm.
I've got the list here somewhere. But yeah, he's an odd one. I think that's probably why he just did not make many friends, because people just looked at him and just didn't see anything behind his eyes.
And so they didn't feel comfortable. He made them feel uncomfortable. I've heard this over and over from people that, knew him, that they felt uncomfortable. And then we've got who covered up the bottom half of his face. The dead eyes really show up. Yeah, great point. And then
I was going to ask you. Oh, sorry. Carry on.
Go ahead. Oh, I was just going to say, Amelia was kind enough to clarify that sociopaths get anxiety from their actions. Psychopaths do not. And nothing was stopping him from entering the house that night. Not the two cars out front, not the fact that everybody was in pairs. But what were you going to say, Emma?
Oh, I was going to ask you, it was related to BK's apartment, actually. I was going to ask you what you feel that they might have been able to find from there that we don't know about yet. Anything important that would, would it have all been in the affidavit, if so?
the van's shoe footprint, right? We haven't heard much about that, if they were able to match that to any shoes. We know they spent a lot of time outside the front of the house, like around the windows too. Now that just could have been, that's what the press picked up, was where they were going. They may have, dusted the whole exterior of the house. We know there was also that handprint on the sliding glass door that looked like it was from the outside coming in. So we don't know if they were able to match that to anything. And, there's just so much we don't know. We know that the crime scene was horrific. We still don't even know for sure who called 911. I've heard two different scenarios. And I think the scenario, from what I understand, Ethan's friends came over. They may have had plans with him, or maybe they just were wondering where he was. They knew where he was, but they wanted to, do something with him. And maybe he wasn't answering the phone. So they stopped by. And that's what woke everybody up. And it ended up, but I've also heard that Bethany found it. So I don't know.
Well, did you know that they actually found a knife? They actually took receipt of a knife from his property when they went to Old Brightsville.
I heard that. I heard there was a knife, and we don't know if it was the knife, but we certainly did hear it was. There was
well, that would be a massive part.
That would be huge if he kept that for a souvenir.
But they've just put knife. God, yeah.
They
I mean, it's number one on the list, and it just says knife.
If they have that and they're able to match that up, along with the DNA, the phone pings, I know that it's really fun to think. A lot of not fun, but the press loves to, he's going to get off. He's going to get off. I don't know. That's a lot. It's a lot to overcome. I'm not saying it can't be overcome, but it just feels like it cumulatively keeps adding up. What do you think about Buddy the dog? Because that went down on October 21st, and that was the day he got that reprimand that he was not meeting expectations for keeping his teaching assistant job. That email came out on the same day that Buddy the dog was done away with.
Yeah, I mean, when I heard about that, I just automatically thought, yeah, that's definitely. But I mean, was it? You could go down two routes, couldn't you? You could say it was a practice. It was practice, But then again, apparently the way that it was skinned, I'm sorry, guys, it's not very nice to think about, but the way that it was skinned, it sounded like it had been done by somebody who was a professional deer hunter, somebody that was used to hunting. And we've not heard about him being a hunter. But you're right, that is a big coincidence.
I just thought it was the night that, Buddy he disappeared out of his own yard again, where he should have been safe. But yet Murphy the dog was left unscathed. So, maybe you're right. Maybe I'm wrong and you're right.
And then the other thing that interested me was, and I might be reading this wrong, but it does say on the list of property that they seized, it says a folder containing, what's that? A folder containing rehearsive paperwork.
Rehearsive, like as in rehearsing?
That's what it reads as to me.
Wow.
Oh, wait a minute. It could be vehicle paperwork. It looks like rehearsive to me. I think it's the way it's written. It might be vehicle paperwork.
Could be registration, something like that.
It just looks like rehearsive to me, the way it's written. But I think it is vehicle paperwork. I don't want to give any false information out.
Yeah, I don't either. We're both trying to be so careful. So what do you think about that ID that they found? He had one of their IDs.
Well, on his list, it does say an ID that they took property, but it doesn't say whose it is. Somewhere on the list, it did say ID. I don't know if it was driving ID or something. And I don't know if it's his or somebody else's, but when would he have got that? That's interesting. I mean, unless he's been on a date with any of these girls. I mean, the only chance he's going to have got that is if he'd have already done a mock run where he's gone to that house one night. He's known how to access, or he's managed to access that door. He had a crowbar in the back of his car, which I know he never used, but for some reason he had a crowbar. I don't know about you, but I don't have a crowbar in the back of my car.
No, me either.
And I think there's a possibility that on one of those 12 previous occasions he's tried to get in, managed to get in and taken a souvenir and thought this was easy. I could do that again, you know?
That's
It wouldn't
really
surprise
common
me.
with they, you know, peeping Tom sounds so harmless. And I think we used to think that it was harmless, but now we're learning that it does lead to like this obsession with other people and stalking. And it's very common for them to go. Remember, Xana was having her locks changed. Her dad went over there to change her locks. I wish she was here to answer the question of, you know, why that was, what happened.
I bet you
He
did go. I bet you he did go before, like we were just saying, and he's gone in on one of those 12 previous occasions, or maybe another time when he's not taking his phone. He's gone in, he's taken the card as a souvenir, or he's taken something, or he's moved something, and the girls have noticed. Maybe he did that in order to find out where they were all sleeping. He's taken something as a souvenir. He's realized how easy it was to get in. They've realized somebody's been in, but there's nothing missing, which is why there's no police report. And then they've had locks put on their doors.
And that's why Xana's dad was over there changing those locks. Because remember, that was leading right up to it.
Yes, because you would have done it the week before, wouldn't you? It would have been fairly recent to the incident that you would go back again after you'd realized it was easy to get into. And, you know, if that's, I mean, I'm not trying to think like I'm a suspected murderer.
And
I'm not, so it's difficult.
He would have had the logistics of the house. Now, the house was on like a realtor.com or Zillow type of site, but he would have had the logistics of the house by going in if he had gone in and gotten retrieved that item and gotten it for a souvenir. We know that that's something that these type of personalities, stalker types, do tend to do. It starts, you know, just maybe checking on someone's social media. I'm just checking on them. I'm just interested in them. And then starting to DM them, trying to get their attention. And then from there, they, you know, start seeing where do they work, showing up where they work, or maybe looking in the windows, and then they get more and more obsessed, and then that's where it just kind of escalates. That's why it is so important for everybody to do a peripheral check around your own house. Make sure that when you're in the house at night, when your house becomes a goldfish bowl, make sure your curtains are closed. Make sure you have locks on your door. And
I tell you what, Jess,
try to
honestly,
keep somebody from becoming fixated. Go ahead, Emma.
This case, I don't know about all the other cases that we've covered. You've been there, Summer Wells, all of the different cases. This case has affected me the worst. And you know why? It's the thought of you being in your sanctuary, your home, the place you feel safe. And to think that when you're asleep, you're not conscious, you're not aware of what's going on, that somebody could come in to your home, to the place you feel safe, and do that to you or one of your loved ones. That freaks me out. Children go missing, people get murdered in the street, shot. I can deal with all that. You know, it's not nice. I can deal with it. But the thought of somebody coming into my home, and I have been more vigilant since this case, like the door's locked, the car's locked, the curtains are closed. Like it's affected me. And I don't know if it's affected everybody else in the same way. Has it you?
Yeah, it's given me nightmares. There's been a couple of times where I've just had to take a break from covering this case. Just because I had one dream. It was just so compelling. I dreamed that everyone was out and everybody was boating, including Brian, and everyone was having fun.
Oh God.
And I just how I wished that, I woke up almost in tears because of how I wished that could be true. Because you and I spend so much time with the images, right?
Yeah.
You can relate to this as another content creator. When you're editing, you're spending so many hours with images of the victims and also the perpetrator. So I think, I know, like when I found out Kylie Rodney had been found, I came on the air to be with my subscribers, because I knew if I was emotional, they were emotional also. But I just couldn't stop sobbing through the live stream because I had been spent that whole day with photos of her. And I was making a video of, that we thought, because the next thing was going to be they were moving toward an abduction. So that was the video I was working on. I ended up not posting it. But, as a content creator, you spend hours and hours with images of Ethan, Xana, Haley, Maddie, Bethany, Dylan, and also with the perpetrator, who is allegedly Bryan.
Yeah. I mean, if you look at my phone now, I've got more photos of this Idaho case than I have of my life, my daughter, because I tend to do a lot on my phone. I make a lot of the videos on my phone and on my iPad, and it's just full. It's just full of photos. I mean, any man, my boyfriend looks at my phone, he sees all the photos of all these men. Any normal man would be like, why have you got photos of men in your phone? And like, oh, it's a murderer. Don't worry.
Don't worry. I'm not going. Well, speaking of that, we know that we've heard reports about, Alex Murdaugh getting love letters. Scott Peterson got love letters. The Menendez brothers got love. What is it about these guys that makes women write love letters with their home address?
I've looked into this. I think I know. I think I have got my finger on the answer. So I did a video on this. Why do women go for men like this? And the fact is that a lot of the women, these women, have been abused, or they've had some type of physical altercations with previous partners, or they've, whatever's gone on, and it's not been good in their past. So by dating somebody who is in jail, they have that added security. They get the danger, that feeling of the danger, like they've always gone for that kind of bad boy, but they get that added security that they're never going to actually get harmed by them, because they're never going to really,
they won't get out. They won't. But if they ever did escape, they would have your address.
Oh my God. Yeah. Can you imagine? Oh my God.
BTK, Dennis Rader's daughter, was like, did a news article on it, and she's, said, don't, my dad gets all kinds of letters like this. She goes, don't give him your home address.
Yeah.
I want him to have your home
bad.
address. Let's see.
I mean, I've only ever, I think I've had one letter. Who's John Ruffler?
John wants to know, did the coroner ever determine the official time of death?
I don't think they said, did they?
I'm sure they have, but they have not released it to us.
No, they did mention in which order that they were murdered. Or no, what did they say? Which order? Or was it? No, I think it was in the affidavit. They said which one they came across first, but I don't think they've actually said the time of death. There was another question. Somebody said something a bit further up, and it was really interesting. I think it was who elected Claus, and they said that Bryan used to work as a fish skinner in Pennsylvania. And that question that you asked about the dog, that is quite an interesting comment to go along with what you were saying. So yes, if he was angry because he'd lost his job or whatever, like you say, and then that dog gets injured that night, that would show that, yeah, maybe he was capable if he was a fish skinner. I mean, it's different to skinning a fish to a dog, but still, it's
just kind of creepy. But yet Murphy was left okay. So I don't. If you're just joining me, my special guest is Emma from Crime Stories Obsessed. You'll want to subscribe to her channel. She's a wonderful content creator, very ethical. And you are with Reporter Room. Please subscribe here as well. And feel free to join us in the top chat. Post your questions and your comments. So we know that Bryan and his dad took this detour on their way from Pullman, Washington, back to Albrightsville, Pennsylvania. They took a 9-hour detour. And we know now that Bethany was living in Nevada. She moved to Nevada. Do you think that had anything? Because I think 9 hours for weather seems extreme to me.
If he'd have traveled on a plane, his name would have come up on the system with his passport. By driving, he's off the grid, isn't he, to some respects?
Right. And do you think he thought he was being watched? Do you think he thought he was being watched? Like maybe suspected?
Yeah, well, I think if anybody commits a crime, I mean, I don't know about you, but if I'd have committed a crime like that, I would have been looking behind myself constantly thinking,
Yeah.
is this the point where they're going to come and arrest me? Like, is this the point where I'm going to get stopped? And I guess every time he got stopped on that highway, if he is the perpetrator, he would have been thinking to himself, here we go. And you could tell by the look on his face in those photos of, you know, the video that was taken by the cops video, and the photos of his face, he looks at them as if to say,
there it is.
shit. Yes. Yeah. I mean, oh, there. I mean, look at that. I mean, that doesn't say, oh, hi, officer. You know, are you okay? That says, oh, my God.
Okay, John has
about
a question.
to be arrested. That to me, anyway.
Yeah. Well, that was the second time he got pulled over because they were trying to get the video of those cuts on his hands. Do you think? Okay, so we already answered that one, John. Let's see if Michael has a question here. I wonder if anyone in the circle of or sorority guys, girls raised on a farm had knowledge of animals removing parts, but it's a family business. I don't know. I wasn't raised on a farm, Michelle. I'm sorry, it's Michelle that asked that. I'm not really sure. You're right, Holly. That was a good question. And Holly said all the other inmates would have your address when you write a prisoner. They exchange and sell addresses in prison. Yikes. Yikes. That's really, really horrifying to think about. Yeah, so if you look at these photos, so here's what they were trying to get, and I blew them up as close as I could get. Let me see. I mean, he does have an odd stare
behind those eyes.
But you can see the hands. They were trying to get I circled them. Let me see. There it is. And he also had what I thought was maybe a bruise on his cheek, on his left cheek. But definitely they wanted to get the body. Do you think
I hope she gave him a good battering?
Huh?
I hope, do you know what? I know it sounds terrible, but if it was him, I hope Zana gave him a good seeing to before he ended up walking out of there after killing those 3 people, just allegedly. I hope that whoever was in there that had to fight back gave him what for prior to. I hope they put up a fight.
So too. I hope so too. So,
do you think he's got OCD, washing his hands? Because it could also be very raw from him having OCD, you know, washing his hands thoroughly constantly.
Could be. We know he was wearing gloves at his parents' house, though, too. So I don't know. Like, I mean, I guess some people do wear gloves to wash up in the kitchen. But when the police arrested him, he had gloves on. That's what I heard.
That's weird. I never put gloves on. I don't put gloves on to wash up. I mean, if it was a mother of 6 kids and he was washing up constantly, I'd understand it. Right. But who wash? I mean, I don't know anyone who puts gloves on. Nails, exactly. He's not got nails. So what reason does he have to need to put gloves on? I don't see it. I don't. But maybe he has a good reason.
So why do you think there's been so much shade thrown at the 2 roommates who their big crime was they didn't call 911 right away? But again, they're living in a house with, 5, before it was 6 women.
Yeah.
Well, I think seeing a strange woman inside the house wouldn't have been like, could have been a friend stopping by or something like that. Could have been a boyfriend.
I don't believe the freeze business when they said she froze. Okay, you freeze for a short period of time, but not that long. And I think the victims, I don't think it's fair for people to be making videos bashing them. Everybody has their own opinions, I guess, but I'm not going to go down that route. I think they're both victims. I think, yes, they have questions to answer to as to why maybe they didn't call sooner or why they didn't go up to the room to make sure they were all right if they've been crying. And I think they're the ones that have to live with that.
Yeah.
But I still think they're victims. Yeah.
If they had gone to the room, they might not be here. So maybe it was good. I don't know. I know it's like survivor's guilt. I've seen them dragged so much, and I've tried to address it multiple times. I know you have too, and I understand that the gap between when she saw the man in the frozen with the bushy eyebrows that Dylan saw in the frozen shock phase, but we haven't heard that from her lips yet. This has all been. So I think we should give them the benefit of the doubt and just, if it had been a fire and 2 survived, we wouldn't be asking why.
Yeah.
Did
I
they
mean,
set the
I've got to go to court soon because somebody attacked me in someone's house. They chased me with a knife. And I've got to go to court soon and give evidence. This guy is currently on bail, but the whole idea of having to go to court and giving evidence, knowing that his defense attorney or whatever they call it over here, lawyer, is going to be there asking me questions. It's just a horrible situation. So I can understand how those two feel, especially due to the fact that what they're going for is a lot more serious, and the fact that they lost their friends. So they are victims, aren't they, in a way? But it's just horrible. Just a horrible situation.
So I wanted to ask you a personal question. What made you want to cover true crime? What made you want to become a true crime content creator, Emma?
Well, when we were young, my mum worked at a care home, and my dad, he did a 9 to 5 job. He was an accountant, and on a night time, he would watch Morse, Taggart, Ruth Mendel, things you probably won't have heard of, but they were all crime dramas, crime vampire movies. On a weekend, he'd get a film for me, him, and my brother. Bearing in mind we were only little, and it would be Hellraiser, Freddy, all the kind of terrible, horrible videos. And so from being very young, I grew up on all of that stuff, and it's always interested me. And I think it's not just about the crime and the act. For me, it's the psychological reasons as to why people commit the crime and how they've grown up and how that affects them in later life, making them do what they do today. So I find it interesting to kind of look into people's backgrounds and try and work out why they do certain things. So that's how I kind of got into it. And then I used to watch a lot of YouTube videos. And when my daughter got to the age where she just started going to her bedroom after school, I thought, you know what, I'm going to start my own channel. And it took off. I was like, wow, I just did it as a hobby. Great. And yeah. How about you? What made you?
I actually got really interested in the Summer Wells case. I was asked to write an article on it. I did a written article, and then I started watching some YouTube videos just to get some background on the case. And in fact, yours was one of my favorite channels and still is. And I just found it very, very interesting. And I just decided, I could do this. I think I would like this. I love doing the research. I already do the story part.
Yeah.
So, and people don't read it like they used to. They don't read as much. So I thought, why not? When I got verified as a journalist on Twitter, I decided, you know what? I'm going to get rid of the overlords that change my article or change the headline of my article or change a couple of words to make it slant the way that they want to. As a journal, I don't want to say too much because I don't want to not be able to ever get a job again doing that. But I just decided when I got verified that, maybe I would just like to, what am I if I sat there for a couple of months, what am I going to do with this blue tick? And I just decided that, you know what, I think I would like to start a YouTube channel. And that's what I ultimately did.
I think the thing that I find frustrating about YouTube, and there's reasons why I don't go live very often. And the first one I told you about, and that is because I'm very nervous. I'm a very, very nervous person, and I get full of anxiety when I'm going live usually. And the second one is that when I'm interested in something, so say I want an update on the Lori Vallow case, I want the update. I don't want to go into a live and listen to 2 hours of talking to get that tiny little bit of information that I want from that case. And some people love to sit and listen all day, don't they? And listen to all but for me, I just want that information and I'm done. So that's why I decided to do the videos, the short 10-minute videos, information, and I'm done. So I don't tend to do many lives, but I've really enjoyed coming on here and talking to you. Thank you.
I've enjoyed having you. I think it's nice too for the viewers to get to connect, because I think you and I are pretty similar content creators. We're both in and out. We give it to you down and dirty, and then we're done. and we try not to, take up your time, but it is nice to get to connect with people. Like I'm getting to, talk with people and see how other people are feeling about things. I learn a lot from reading the comments in the comment section too, but it's nice to have this kind of live interaction with you and live interaction that I have to say I am enjoying. So Candace says, I have conflicting feelings about the roommates, but I know they're kids and we're probably terrified. Yeah, I think that's a fair assumption. What do you think, Emma?
What about the Dylan and Bethany?
Yeah.
Let me go up. The roommates were traumatized. Yeah, I can. I think they've got a lot of heavy weight on them right now, because the whole thought of having to go to trial, giving evidence, that they're going to be quizzed. They're going to have, and they're asking them loads of questions. It's going to be uncomfortable. They're looking at BRYAN KOHBERGer the whole time, knowing in the back of their minds that 4 of their friends were murdered, and it's just horrible. And then they're trying to do their college work as well. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if these girls have had to take a year out.
Yeah, I mean, Bethany,
I think I would have done.
I give them so much credit. Also, they didn't do any interviews. They didn't sell their story. They haven't, cashed in and written a book. I mean, there have been offers for them to probably, sell their story to a Lifetime movie or something like that. They haven't tried to cash in any way, shape, or form. In my opinion, they've been very classy, and they've done what they can to protect the prosecution's case, in my opinion, or at least protect.
I think that's what they're doing.
Evidence, trying to get justice for their friends in whatever way that they can.
Definitely. I think that's the reason why they've not done it,
Amelia has a question. I have to change one word, Amelia. So she's asking you, Emma, do you think it's possible that there is a medication, I'm watching my word, supply link with BRYAN's lifestyle, what we know about him, his mannerisms, physique, weight loss, weight gain? What do you think?
A medication, what was that? A medication?
Do you think it's possible there's a medication supply link in and out of related to BRYAN?
What to do with 1122 or?
No. Oh, I mean, I guess either way, you want to answer it however you want to answer it. She didn't say that, but
well, it did say on the list of things seized that there was the green leafy substance, and there was some white powder. But I don't know. I don't know. It sounds like he was definitely taking something. He lost a hell of a lot of weight. Suddenly changed his personality.
Yeah.
I mean, it did make me think that there was something going on in that street, because they were hanging shoes on the cables above your head, and that usually is a sign that there's somebody in the area selling.
And we did see the boots, at least on the thing. I don't know if that has anything to do with it, or it could just be, it may not have anything to do with anything. I mean, a lot of kids do use those type of things. They were young.
Yeah.
They were experimenting a little bit. I don't know. It's just so hard to know. So do you think that the prosecution might have some surveillance video of BRYAN actually driving to or from the 1122 King Road house behind the wheel of that Hyundai Elantra?
I think they may have photos of his car. But he didn't have a registration on was it on the back? He didn't have a registration on. It was either the front or the back at one point, because you didn't have to have it in that area. I think maybe it was the front. I'm not sure. I think they probably do have some surveillance because there's plenty of shops and places where they have cameras these days. But it sounds like he did the long route. Yeah.
So maybe we're thinking maybe. I agree. I think it's a very strong possibility that they may have something to place him behind the wheel, to put him at the crime scene, or maybe even just a visual on his driver's the license plate. And he went back home to his parents' house at Christmas and changed his license plate to another state. Do you think that was a way to try to hide his car from law enforcement, Emma? What do you think? Or do you think it was just...
I mean, It's funny how he changed his license plate just after this incident. He didn't change it before, you know. Suddenly this incident occurs and then he changes his license plate. It's just a bit too much of a coincidence. There's a lot of coincidences in this case, and I just don't believe in. I mean, you can have one coincidence, maybe sometimes even two, but not that many coincidences. I don't think.
I agree.
There's too
Oh,
many.
Amelia, don't worry. Don't worry. Just put your comments in there and I'll get them out. Don't worry, Amelia. Amelia's worried because she used a word. I just try to be so mindful of YouTube. I just want to always try to stay in their good graces. Yeah, I think so what do you think? What is your prediction for the outcome of the trial? Do you think he's going to be exonerated, or do you think he's going to be found guilty? Emma, what do you think?
I think he's going to be found guilty. I don't think he'll get the death penalty, because I think for him to get the death penalty, they would have needed more, maybe DNA evidence and things like that. But having said that, people have got the death penalty for less. But I think he will be found guilty. I don't believe in that many coincidences. Yeah. What do you think?
I think it's a lot to overcome. I think with the touch DNA, with the cell phone pinging, with the getting fired and all of the things that were leading up to it, just personality fitting the profile.
Yeah.
Combined with, the two roommates, we know at least one saw him in with bushy eyebrows. Boy, he certainly does have bushy eyebrows. He trimmed them up for the hearing, but he, did have bushy eyebrows. You look at the pictures of him getting pulled over. I think that the knife, the knife sheath, the ID being found in a box within his
that's big
vicinity.
Yeah.
It's a lot of coincidences. You would just have to believe that this was like one of the most unlucky people ever, which is, possible, but it just seems like,
And who would hate him that much that would want to frame him? I mean, people keep saying that in the comments. I think he was framed. I don't believe that, but I'm, happy to read everybody's comments because everybody has an opinion and I appreciate everybody's opinion. But I think he's guilty.
And for those of you that don't know, reporter room is like this. I know Emma's like this too. We appreciate having different points of view. That's why I'm really enjoying hearing Emma's take on all of this today, because it's just, and I love reading your comments. That's why I try to read everybody's comments. If I don't respond to your comment, it's because you got filtered out. There's a word that you use that is not going to be, that got caught in a filter. And sometimes it can just be like the strangest, like I'll look at the comment and can't figure out why it would get filtered out. Cause sometimes I'll go back in and look for stuff when somebody says, I left you a comment. And I'm like, I didn't get it. So if I don't answer you, that's why. It's that I didn't get your comment. But let's see, Green IBN, it says that I would be afraid to say either way, guilty or not found not guilty, because I was certain about OJ Simpson and Casey Anthony. Both of them walked right out the courtroom free to go on with their life. Boy, doesn't that sum it up? Yeah, I think I remember vaguely the OJ Simpson trial, but I definitely remember the Casey Anthony trial. I did get to see some of it. I didn't see all of it, but I definitely remember being really surprised at the verdict. I was like, but I didn't see all of it, so I don't know what the jury saw and what they didn't see, but she was found not guilty. And I think there was that CSI effect where that television show CSI, there were all these TV shows. DNA was newer. I think it was pretty new for OJ, right? But it was new still for Casey Anthony. So people were expecting them to like have definitive DNA stuff that they just didn't have at the time. I think juries are more realistic now because it's beyond a reasonable doubt, not beyond any doubt at all. But I think you're right, Emma. Maybe that's why they're not seeking any kind of higher penalty, the death penalty in this case. And Holly says, I think that the juries have changed since Casey Anthony and O.J. Simpson. I think so too. I think they have more realistic And Candace Young says, I watched Casey's as well. I was stunned by the verdict. Yeah, I think some of us are like, were we watching the same trial? But I didn't see all of it. So, I never did see
Craig
all of it.
said, would he still be on the loose now, Kohlberger,
Let me
if
grab that.
his car had never been caught on any cameras? Well,
Mm,
well, they had the DNA, didn't they? From the knife sheath that related back to his father. So I think possibly they would have at least been looking at him at that point.
and remember, he was throwing
Mm,
out garbage in his neighbor's trash. They would have collected all of that and gone through it. So I'm sure there's more that we just don't know about yet in that they may have found in the trash, right,
yeah.
Emma? That
Yeah,
they were.
definitely. I mean, what was he throwing stuff away in his neighbour's trash for? Did his mum and dad not have trash cans? You know,
Right.
surely they had trash cans. Why did he need to go next door? Like, it doesn't make any sense
That
unless
would
you're
have
trying to hide something.
right. That maybe he didn't want his parents to see it. Didn't want his parents to go back out and adjust the trash and
Mm,
maybe see it.
yeah,
Insta Justice says jurors now seem to use more common sense than ever. And
good.
yeah, I agree with that. Well, I want to thank you so much, Emma, for coming in and doing a live. I know, you're like me, you don't do a lot of lives. I want to do more interviews like what I got to do with Emma today. I really enjoyed interviewing you, Emma. It's been a pleasure. If you're not
Thank
subscribed
you.
to Crime Stories Obsessed, you're going to want to. She's a great content creator, very ethical. And it's just been our pleasure to have you here at Reporter Room. If you guys would just join me in just subscribing. And I want to thank all of our channel members, our executive producers, our producers, our channel members. Without you guys, this channel would not be possible. You guys keep us running. Just seeing you in the top chat, honestly, at the premieres makes my day. And thank you to everybody who were so kind with super thanks and super stickers in the last week or so. I really am
And
grateful for
thank
you. Well,
you.
Emma, thank you so much, and I look forward to having you on again. You're a friend of the show now, so you're welcome back anytime.
Oh,
Thank you
thank you
so
so
much.
much for having me. And thank you to everybody that was so kind in the comments and came up with some really good questions. Thank you.
We have such a great group. We're very, very thankful. Thankful. Thank you to our mods. We had some really great mods. I saw Amelia and I saw Holly. I don't know if I see everybody that's a mod right now. Let me see. I saw Jane. So thank you to our
Oh,
mods.
lovely.
Couldn't get through it yet. Green Eyed Bandit, remind me. I'll give you a wrench and you can have it for next time. I saw Janie. Yeah. Okay. So on that note, thank you so much for watching, and Emma and I will see you here on YouTube, and have a great one. Thanks, you guys. And I'm going to do a members only live stream in about 10 minutes. Okay, guys? See you. I'll
Thank
see our
you.
members. Thanks, Emma.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye. Bye.